Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home with Russ McClellan and Friends. Here's your host, Russ McClellan.
Hey, welcome to Home Sweet Home with Russ McClellan and Friends. Thanks for tuning in. Always appreciate it. It's been about, I'm looking at JP, my producer, it's been about 70 some shows. And man, time flies in the land of COVID too. Wow. I feel really lucky because I have a good friend of mine that I've known for a lot of years calling in. How you doing, Jan Ellingson?
I'm doing great. It's pouring down rain where we are, but doing great.
Yeah, well, rain and traffic are my favorite allies for real estate in Lake Chelan. So if everybody could sell as good as rain and traffic, we'd all be rich.
There you go.
Hey, you know, you are, I don't want to butcher it, you are a certified instructor for the Washington Association of Realtors, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and you've also been a real estate broker, amazing real estate broker out of Mount Vernon at Keller Williams. And I don't know, how long do you think we've known each other? I don't even know.
At least 20 years.
Wow. Yeah. Did I have a lot of hair when you first met me, or was I bald early?
Yeah, you had a mullet.
I had an 80s mullet with some Varney sunglasses and a polo, probably. And a Kawasaki Ninja, because Top Gun, I think, came out in 86. So. Anyway, the reason I asked you to call, and you're so gracious with your time as always, and so generous as a human being, so I'm grateful to be your friend. But the reason I asked you to call in today is that my spidey senses, as a designated broker and operating partner of Keller Williams, have been really firing about safety. And one of the things that we're lucky enough to be able to say is that you are a safety. One of the things you do, among many things, and all your talents, is teach realtor safety. So I thought maybe we could just have a conversation today over the next this segment and two others, about what does that even mean. And, you know, one of the things that I'm a little worried about is that the stress of being locked down seems to be manifesting itself in some strange ways. Social media has never been so polarized. We're in a political year of ideology that has seemed to creating all kinds of judgment and reactions that is just strange. So we've been locked down about 6 months now, and we haven't really had the normal opportunity to talk to people about protocols and safeties because we're all kind of living in this digital world. So maybe with that as the foundation, could you just kind of tell us some things that you're thinking about, things that you would have seen, or things that you could share to help somebody stay safe?
Well, we have an organized safety course that was written in 2001 after a Bellevue realtor was murdered. His name was Mike Emmert, and I want to give him, his family, the peace. But he was murdered showing a house, and his family has allowed us to take that example to strengthen our own safety procedures. What I see right now during COVID, I don't know where your county's at. We're in phase 2. We can now do open houses with up to 5 people, which we're like celebrating, but houses are selling so fast here, we don't even have time to do an open house before it's sold. But what I'm seeing is people are getting so excited to go out, they're forgetting some of their safety measures. COVID, of course, is one of them. And making sure that you're wearing your mask. There are people, I've been out showing property, and there are people standing in their yard making sure that we are wearing our masks. I have a police chief of a municipality that's out of my county, and he is always wanting to make sure that we stay safe, and he reminds our agents, which is really nice of him to do. But we try to stay safe using our masks. We have hand sanitizer. If on all of my listings I have hand sanitizer and masks, they're all sitting there at the location. But what I'm seeing is everybody's so eager to start getting back to work, they're letting those things lax, and you really shouldn't, especially if you're in a high-risk group. And I also see people who haven't been busy taking some risks on working with people they haven't met, meeting them at houses, which is one of our first safety protocols is when you are showing property. Make sure you've at least had some conversation with them ahead of time, get to know who they are, because you don't want to relax that. You never know who's waiting at a house, a vacant home usually, that might want to do you some harm. So I just want people to be thinking about that. Years ago, I had an opportunity to talk to one of the psychologists that put away the South Hill rapist in Spokane. And I asked her, why do these criminals, after you've interviewed so many of them, what do they tell you why they go after real estate agents? And her first reply was because they can. And boy, that really hit me hard. And we need to make sure that we're staying safe, that we are practicing our safety protocols now that we're getting back out and working, and remembering some of those safety protocols. So that's kind of what I'm seeing the most, is people really chasing new leads, chasing buyers, and not really doing their homework. When you think about it, we're the only business in the world where we say, hey, I don't know you, but get in my car, I'll take you somewhere.
Yeah. Or, hey, would you meet me on the top of a mountain? I would like to see some acreage. Are you coming by yourself?
Yeah.
And believe it or not, some of that silliness, but we're running and gunning so fast. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to slow it down and focus on this, because we run and gun so fast, and we may be a little bit laxed because we are so busy that some of those pretty obvious statements, like if a guy said to someone, hey, are you alone? And you may not realize, but that's kind of a big deal if somebody asked you a silly question like that. And that, one of the things that I tell, we just had some situations here locally that one of my agents was a little bit concerned for her safety. And one of the things I said was, well, lock your doors. It was kind of a weird dude, client. And I said, hey, please just lock your doors. But most importantly, don't take any chances. I mean, if you're feeling a certain way, vocalize it, and we'll take it very seriously. And if you hear anything, call 911. And it doesn't matter if it was a false alarm, because I think that's one of the things, like, oh, well, they seem like a nice person, or no, I'm just overreacting. No, I take it very, very seriously, because I do think that's, and you know more than I, is that one of the areas where you see that people can get in trouble, is when they just kind of relax.
Yeah, they relax those safety protocols, and they aren't, like I said, we're out chasing clients right now because we need to be. A lot of realtors have been out of work for a while. My office continued to stay open. I have a team of 10, and we can continue to cover for each other. We still do Zoom meetings every Monday with our team, so we get to see them and talk to them. They're still doing their lead generation every morning. They're still trying to get clients. We were able to still show property in Skagit County to one person at a time, then to two people at a time. So my business has not particularly suffered, but we do teach safety in our office. And I don't know if you want to go into it in this segment or not, but we never do open houses alone when we do those. My new buyer agents, unless they know the person and have worked with them for a while and are comfortable, they have to show property in pairs right now.
Yeah, well, there's some pretty obvious examples. I was actually I don't know if you know Lance, right?
Maybe.
Lance Otto. He was in my bold class in Marysville a couple of years ago. Yeah, well, he moved right around the corner from me as a second home in Lake Chelan. But when I had just met him, he was in the bold training that's offered by Keller Williams, and he was at a showing where he got jumped by 3 or 4 guys, and luckily for him, he's a big, strong dude, athletic dude, and he was able to fight him off and get away from them. But and to his credit, he's an amazing realtor. He came the next class, and he was black and blue from head to toe, but he was there, and he got lucky. He said that they were trying to kill me. I mean, that was at a showing where he was by himself, and that's one of the things I wanted to bring up. Isn't it true that we sometimes as men think, well, I'm tough, but in reality, like the tribute that you gave Mike, who was murdered in 2001. Men are actually, if I remember right, they're targeted almost more, if not more, than women.
The statistics show that the men are murdered more often than the women. Women agents are sexually assaulted more. I had a listing out in, we have a lot of farms out here, and I had a listing out in farm country. And a gentleman pulled up. I was getting ready to take up my signs, and a gentleman pulled up and had a huge dog in his car and was asking me, oh, can you reopen the house? And I said, sure, and he started to open the door and gave the dog the command to attack me. And he didn't know my husband was there with me. and my husband came around the corner of the building. He pulled the dog back in and sped away.
Wow. Yeah.
That was my first experience with being scared to death. The second time I actually was grabbed from behind. And those two instances really made me realize I may not get out of every one of these if this keeps up. And that's over a 23-year career, so it wasn't just like in 2 days. But still, it was enough to wake me up.
Yeah, well, it's fortunate that the vast majority of people are good people, and and the downside is to that statement, there are bad people. And when we come back, we got about another minute in this segment. When we come back, I think I'd like to dive into some of the real practical things that you can do to with respect to protocols that should be implemented in your office if they're not. And if they are, great. Let's just have a conversation about reminding us of what they are, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
All right. Well, we'll be back with Home Sweet Home and Russ McClellan and Jan Ellingson.
Keller Williams, you make dreams come true.